They say democracy is about choice. But what if your choices have already been chosen for you? For more than 150 years, America has lived under the shadow of two colors, red and blue, two parties that promise change, yet preserve the same game. This is not just politics. It's a design, carefully built, deeply rooted, and nearly impossible to escape. To understand why the two-party system still rules America, we have to go back to the birth of the nation itself. When the ink on the Constitution was still fresh, two minds clashed: Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson. Hamilton believed in a strong federal government, Jefferson in the power of the people and the states. Those disagreements were never truly resolved. They evolved. And from their rivalry came the first parties, Federalists and Democratic Republicans. From the very beginning, America was built on conflict, a nation split not just by ideas, but by identity. Over time, the system hardened. The Democrats and Republicans didn't just win elections, they built barriers. Ballot access laws, debate commissions, campaign financing rules, all shaped to keep outsiders out. Today, if you're not red or blue, you're invisible. Independent candidates rarely make it onto every state ballot, and even if they do, media coverage vanishes before it begins. The game isn't fair, it's fortified. Behind every campaign ad, every debate, every headline, there's money. Billions flow into party machines from corporations, interest groups, and donors who expect something in return. The media, too, feeds the divide. Red networks versus blue networks, shouting matches sold as debate. Conflict drives clicks. Anger fuels ratings. And the two-party system thrives on exactly that, division. It's no longer just politics, it's identity. People don't say, "I support this policy." They say, "I'm a Democrat. I'm a Republican." Each side sees the other not as opposition, but as an enemy. Families split, friendships end, and social media algorithms lock us in echo chambers where our beliefs are never challenged, only reinforced. The system doesn't just shape laws. It shapes minds. Every election, millions of Americans say, "I don't like either choice." Yet they vote anyway, not for who they believe in, but against who they fear more. This is the power of the two-party illusion. It convinces people that change is dangerous, that alternatives are wasted votes. And so the cycle continues, election after election, generation after generation. But the price of this control is high. Ideas that could transform healthcare, education, or the environment often die before they even reach the floor, not because they're bad, but because they don't fit party lines. Moderates vanish. Extremes rise. And compromise, the soul of democracy, becomes almost impossible. Yet, even the strongest systems eventually crack. Young voters are breaking the mold, choosing independence or refusing party labels altogether. Technology gives rise to new voices, new movements, new ways of organizing. Maybe the question isn't when the two-party system will fall, but how much longer it can hold on. Many Americans believe they have a choice every election, red or blue, left or right. But beneath the slogans and campaign rallies, the machinery is the same. Both parties are funded by the same corporate donors, shaped by the same lobbyists, and constrained by the same system that resists true change. The illusion of democracy remains powerful, but the results rarely shift. Third parties rise, speak, and vanish, like echoes lost in a canyon. From the Green Party to libertarians, from independents to grassroots reformers, every attempt to break the duopoly ends the same way. The media coverage is minimal. The funding is scarce. The system itself, designed for two, leaves no room for a third. Power in America is not just political, it's psychological. Generations have been taught that voting outside the two main parties is a waste. Schools, media, and even family traditions reinforce the cycle. And so, the pattern repeats, a two-color chessboard where the pieces change, but the players never do. Yet, not all hope is lost. Across the nation, new voices rise, independent journalists, young activists, digital movements that reject old politics. Technology is reshaping awareness. Maybe the next revolution won't come from a ballot box, but from the collective awakening of a generation tired of being divided by two colors. Because democracy doesn't belong to parties, it belongs to the people. Behind every televised debate, every campaign slogan, and every patriotic promise lies a billion-dollar engine of influence. Lobbyists craft legislation before it ever reaches Congress. Corporations finance think tanks that shape public opinion. Media networks, owned by the same conglomerates that fund politicians, filter which stories rise and which vanish. It's not chaos. It's choreography, a well-rehearsed dance between money and power. The two-party system thrives not because it's loved, but because it's locked in. Ballot access laws make it nearly impossible for third parties to compete. Debate commissions, controlled by the very parties in power, exclude outside voices. Even voting districts are drawn, line by line, to protect incumbents. It's not democracy, it's strategy. And the longer it stays, the harder it becomes to break free. But the real damage isn't in the politics, it's in the people. Neighbors see each other not as citizens, but as enemies. Social media feeds amplify outrage, not understanding. Families are divided by colors on a map, red for one, blue for another. America's greatest strength, unity in diversity, is being traded for algorithmic conflict. And those who benefit from it are watching quietly, smiling. But history shows, no empire, no system, lasts forever. Every generation rewrites the rules. Today's youth are not waiting for permission. They're questioning, exposing, organizing. Independent candidates are rising from podcasts, not party offices. Communities are voting with awareness, not allegiance. And slowly, the system begins to tremble. To understand why the two-party system still dominates America, you have to go back to the nation's birth. When George Washington left office, he warned against political parties, calling them the worst enemy of popular government. But just a few years later, the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans had already divided the young republic. The idea of political competition seemed democratic, but it also planted the seeds of permanent division. Every major shift in American history, from the Civil War to the Great Depression, only strengthened the dominance of two opposing camps. Even when third parties rose, like the Progressive Party of Theodore Roosevelt or Ross Perot's Reform Party, they were absorbed or erased by the same two forces, Democrats and Republicans. Over time, the two-party system didn't just become tradition, it became law. States require thousands of signatures for third parties to even appear on ballots. Campaign financing laws favor candidates who already have major donors. A commission on presidential debates, created by the Democratic and Republican parties themselves, decides who the public gets to hear on national television. Even primary elections, once open contests, are now dominated by party machinery. It's a self-reinforcing cycle, where the system protects itself from change. But the power of the two-party system isn't only structural, it's psychological. For decades, Americans have been told that a vote outside the two main parties is a wasted vote. Media outlets amplify this narrative by framing every election as a horse race, red versus blue, left versus right. This creates what political scientists call strategic voting behavior, where citizens vote not for what they believe in, but for what they fear less. And so, even those who want change end up sustaining the same system they oppose. The two-party monopoly comes with a price. Complex national issues, like healthcare, climate change, or education, are reduced to party talking points. Policies change less with elections than with lobbyist influence. Voter turnout remains among the lowest in the developed world, proof that millions no longer feel represented at all. And as polarization deepens, bipartisan cooperation becomes almost impossible. In a nation that once prided itself on innovation, its political system remains frozen in a 19th century mold. But cracks are beginning to show. Independent voters now outnumber both Democrats and Republicans combined. Technology has made it easier than ever for new movements to organize, crowdfund, and be heard. Grassroots candidates are bypassing party machines entirely, speaking directly to millions online. America's younger generations, digital natives raised on transparency and global awareness, are beginning to ask the question their parents never did. Why do we only get two choices in a democracy of 330 million voices? Every election, billions flow through a system built to preserve power. In 2020, campaign spending hit $14 billion, most from fewer than 1% of donors. Television ads, corporate sponsors, and lobbyists don't just promote candidates, they control the conversation. And so, politics becomes less about people's voices and more about the money behind them. Every empire, every institution, and every political system believes it will last forever, until the people decide otherwise. The two-party system may have defined America for centuries, but it does not define her future. Because democracy isn't measured by how long a system survives, it's measured by how well it listens. And when millions of voices rise beyond the noise of red and blue, something shifts. A new vision begins to form, not Republican, not Democrat, but truly American. One that belongs to the people, all of them, not just the powerful few. If you believe democracy deserves more than two voices, then don't just watch, be part of the change. Like, share, and subscribe, because awareness is where every revolution begins.